in a change in connection.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to introduce the next speaker to you guys. As you guys might have read the title already, Christian Hafmann. Sorry. I shouldn't have asked him for how do I pronounce it. Hellman. I'm so sorry. He's going to talk about HTML5 and really the web and the browsers as a platform. He's been an evangelist. He's an evangelist at Mozilla now, and before that he worked at Yahoo on several web technologies like WEBGL and lots of cool stuff. So without further delaying anything, Christian.
Hello. Okay, I thought the room would be empty. That's good. They want to hear about technology. I like that. It's quite funny being back here, because last time I was here was at Google I/O, and the first time I went past this building, it was the Comic-Con convention or something like that. I just walked around San Francisco and people in random outfits, and I'm like, yeah, San Francisco. But it turned out to be a convention, really, and they did it on purpose, and this changed. And I just saw the X's here and the Magento thing, and I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if we had like some dyslexic people coming in and trying to find Magneto here? This would be so cool, but that's okay. That's all the copyright infringement I have in my presentation. So this morning, in one of the slides, it had that the survival of the fittest, the big quote from Charles Darwin. And that's actually a misquote, which always fascinates me, because it's not the fittest, it's not the strongest, it's not the best in the market. It's actually, when you see the quote, it is the most responsive to change who survive. And we are in the middle of a change, a big change of the web that we should really be aware about. And one of the things that the market tells us and everybody tells us, it's the web is dead and do all with apps. It's all about little apps on your phones, and it's really awesome. And it's great. I mean, there's so much money in apps right now, and there's so many Cinderella stories being heard about, like, oh, the unknown programmer did something in his garage, and then out of a sudden, ooh, Angry Birds, and everybody has it right now. Let's not forget that those people also did Need for Speed on several platforms before that and had a few ideas what games are like. But the bigger problem that I see with that is actually it's limiting ourselves. Of course, you can measure much better if you have one market where you sell things in. But the web is so much bigger and so much more full of opportunities. And especially when you're not an American, like I'm not, and you're traveling worldwide, you realize that these cool new iPhones and smartphones and Android phones are not that ubiquitous that we think they are. If you think about the smartphone penetration worldwide, think about the AT&T coverage in San Francisco. That's almost the same thing. So you don't find them everywhere. They keep crapping out. You don't know where you are. And the internet, on the other hand, you find almost everywhere. I mean, I don't know where this is, but this is basically, there's a new internet experience there. It's been a while since I saw a shop advertising ICQ and IRC. But it's quite interesting that wherever you go, you will find some way to connect. And it's not your smartphone. And I'm getting very annoyed when people just talk about the mobile web being the only web, because it's not. We spent 10 years making lots and lots of mistakes that we don't have to do again on mobile market, because we learned from them and we made it better. So if you look on app stores, they're cool. I mean, this is on OS X now. I can't just have an application folder anymore. I now have an app store where I can download apps for my operating system as well. And for end users, this is great. Shiny buttons, nice warm colors. I install this thing. I should not need to go through the pain of installing and uninstalling things. When I went from Windows to Mac, that was the first time I'm like, oh yeah, this is much more fun. Then I went to Linux as well, but that's just me, because end users really don't most of the time. But what I really don't like is that I get some control taken away from me. I have to install this thing, and it comes and it updates automatically, which is great, if it's available. For example, I was at Google I/O, I got my cool Google phone, and I got Google Music. Great. Come back to England, no Google Music for you. But I still get to download the 8.5 meg or something that Google Music is every single time there's an update. And this is the disconnect I see between apps and the platforms that we're running them on. So an app store to me is like a mall, a shopping mall, which is cool because you got 1 hour and you can buy everything you want. You can get some glasses, you can get your sporting goods, you can have some food, you can maybe watch a video later on, or a movie in the cinema, and it's great. It's all in one place. What shopping malls do, however, is kill the little markets, kill the little shops that are there to repair something that nobody else has anymore. I recently read Brave New World again. And one of the things in the book from 1948 is that you should not repair things that's a crime. You should buy new things. Try to get an iPod of the first generation repaired in an Apple store. First of all, they're going to look at you pitifully, like, what brick is that? What's going on here? And secondly, you probably have to pay more for the repair than for the new one. And somehow this is not right to me, not in a market where people say we don't have money and we should be saving some money. Creating more things to throw away really doesn't do it for me. And app stores are this big innovation. Everybody comes up with their own app store. And if you think back a few years, if you're as old as me and you've been on the internet as long as me, we had these download.com and twocows.com. We didn't go randomly on Google and found a download and installed it. We went to those sites and downloaded them there and looked at the reviews and just basically tried to find something. And this is what they looked like, and they didn't look much better later on. And sooner or later, when we found open source, when we found ways to actually install software directly from a source on GitHub and these kind of things, these things got into disarray. And when you look at them now, they look like a mall after the zombie attack, because none of the software is up to date anymore, and the reviews are full of spam and all these things. And that happens every single time you use a closed system. A closed system is vulnerable to attrition like that, because it doesn't scale. How do you get your app on the first page of an app store? Absolutely impossible, unless you buy a lot of people that write reviews, which people do right now. But we're going to come back to that later. So, actually quite now. Finding an app is really, really hard, especially like an official app. Like iPhone had Cut the Rope. Really cool game. I played it through on several devices, and it came out on iPhone first, and then it came out on Android. When it came out on iPhone, and people showed me like, oh, this is so cool. I'm like, cool. Went to the Android store. I found 15 apps called Cut the Rope, and most of them were like background images called Cut the Rope, where somebody tried to fool you into spending 99p on something that's really not necessary. So there's a lot of flooding, a lot of spamming going on, especially when it's an open market. And unless you pay people to do reviews for you or promote your app, or you call your app ampersand, exclamation mark, @ when people filter by alphabet, that will bring them up there, but not really helpful if they try to explain to their friends that they just played ampersand Apple App Store. What I'm talking about is that we have this infrastructure, we have these really cool tools. This thing is 3 times as fast as the first computer that I had where I wrote my first website on. And I have it in my pocket, and the battery doesn't run out anymore in 2 hours like it did on the first mobile phones. We have quad-core, oct-core laptops. We have all this hardware out there that is really, really good, but we don't use it in our websites yet. Why? Because we don't know that we can, but we do. Because most people say if you want to make best use of your phone, be native, write native code. Well, good luck. Write it for every different mobile phone out there rather than writing it once on the web. This is Folding at Home. Folding at Home is a Stanford initiative to find out how protein folding works. Protein folding is one of the reasons for Alzheimer's, and it needs a massive supercomputer to plow through all this information. So instead of building another supercomputer, which are outdated every year, they just actually send out the data to people at home on their PlayStations and on their computers to plow through that data and send the data sets back. Much like SATI at Home was years ago, Folding at Home is the new thing. And we do the same thing with the web. Our end users have cool computers. We should be using what their computers give us rather than just doing everything on our server and wondering why it's so expensive. Outside can be messy. The internet is a messy place. There's lots of scamming going on. It's hard to make your website found. Your competition always has a better SEO consultant. It's really, really annoying. But it's actually fun. This is the cool thing about it. This is when I started as a web developer. It was 1996, 1997. I was a radio journalist. I was a newscaster. And I found the internet to find new information worldwide every morning. And I'm like, this is cool. I want to be part of this. So I quit my job. I went to hospital for an operation that I needed to have done anyways, and I wrote my first website on a laptop, put it on a free hosting service, and I was on the internet. And I got emails from people in Brazil, from people in China, from people worldwide. If I had done it on the radio or on TV, it would be impossible to reach these people. On the internet, it was from the very beginning that way, and that's why I started being a web developer. And it's huge. This is the world connectivity. Like, this is how connected the world is. I want this all to be white, but we don't care about these countries too much to help them with that at the moment. But it's really, really good that you can contact these. I mean, this Europe, America are the big ones, but if you actually look farther east, and if you've ever been to Korea or Japan, forget what you have in connectivity here. You see people on the train watching streaming TV on a 3 megabit connection on their phones, with a data plan that doesn't rip them off like it does in other countries. And it's just wonderful that we can be part of this. Native versus web, when it comes to native applications in Cocoa or Objective-C or Android Java versus web, to me is always like Playmobil versus Lego. I'm the third kid of a family where my father is a coal miner, my mother's a housewife. We never had much money. But I always inherited stuff from my siblings. So we had this massive box of Legos, like everybody has, that doesn't have any connection between them anymore. There's none of these booklets that explain to you what the Legos were in the beginning. And there's a website out there for that, actually, brickinfo.com. If you have one of those boxes, download the PDFs there and give them to your kids and say, like, find the pieces now in those 10,000. And that keeps them busy for a few hours. But for me, it was always like the rich kids had Playmobil. Playmobil had fixed cars, fixed planes, fixed boats, and that was great, because a Playmobil car, you can drop and the thing doesn't work. My Lego cars, I dropped them and things fell off and I had to put them on again, and dirt got in between them and it didn't work properly anymore. My Lego ships always sank, because there's like little things between the bricks. The Playmobil ones, of course, swam. But when I was out there and the kid with the Playmobil was saying like, hey, look, my boat works, and I'm like, yeah, and I can turn my boat into a plane. You have to go to your parents and ask them for another plane, right? So I like that idea, that flexibility, and that's exactly what web development is versus native development. A web application, the open technologies that we're having, are so flexible that they can turn a plane into a ship, into a car, whereas a native app has to download the ship application, download the car application, and so on and so forth. I can actually make my applications mutate on the web like I can't as easily in a native environment. This, for example, is not a PowerPoint. This is an HTML website. And I can prove it to you later on, but you have all the transitions and everything going on. Works across the browsers, put it on the web out there, people can read it and can reuse it. What about syncing? These are my Android devices that I have. And as I said, I played Angry Birds, I played Cut the Rope. I played every single level on every single one of those devices because the different installations don't talk to each other. And that's just not right. I should not have to log in on my mobile phone, to log in on my tablet, to log in on my computer, and get the different experience in all of them. They should sync with each other. If I finished a level on one device, it should tell me on the other devices, hey, you're actually done that level, you don't need to do it on that one either. But because it's just wasted time, really, if you think about it. Financial Times proved the other day that their web application that is written in HTML5 actually has more readers than their iPad application. And that's pretty cool. That made me really happy, because I thought people would rather download something like that. But in the end, you read it on your desktop at work, you then go to your iPad, open the same website, maybe have it offline stored, as the app does for them, and read it on the train. So you already know what you've done. You didn't read it on the app at work, you read it on your desktop. So it's synced with each other. Making flexible rigid is easy. If you've written it in HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript, there's things like PhoneGap, which just got acquired by, well, the company doing PhoneGap got acquired by Adobe. And PhoneGap itself went to the Apache Foundation, so it's still open source and free. And what PhoneGap allows you to do is write an HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS app and package it up for Android or for iPhone. So you don't waste any time by building a web application. You never waste any time building a web application. You might waste time building an application for a piece of hardware that's hot right now and not important anymore in 3 years' time. Because I don't think that Apple will be the only person out there, or the only company out there that will come up with good hardware. So HTML5 is right now for you an opportunity to build great applications. You can use your original application. You can use the stuff that you've been doing for years and put a few new things in there to make them much more applications than they are websites. Because right now we build websites, we build linked documents. It's all about the eyeballs, it's all about the reloading. And that's just annoying for end users, especially when they're on 3G or on wireless connections that don't really do it for them. So here's some new tech on the web that I will go through that you can use right now in your machines, in your applications. You use them with progressive enhancement, which means you test if the browser supports it, then you do it. As simple as that. Every programming language has an if statement. We just should use those things rather than building something and then complaining when the browser doesn't support it or asking our end users to actually update. Yesterday, a car manufacturer released a website that only works in Google Chrome. And instead of fixing a few things that would make them work in Firefox, Opera, Internet Explorer, and all the others as well, they made a video about it saying like that Google Chrome is the best browser and you should please download it. Yeah, to see your ad, I will download a browser and change my browsing history and my browsing experience. Great idea. How arrogant is that of some people? And all the technologies that they're mentioning in that ad are actually supported in all the other browsers as well. The only problem is that most of the end user will not understand what WebGL is in an ad anyways. So an ad agency got a lot of money and overexcited about this, but not really helping. So flexible layouts with media queries allows you to build a website that actually changes its layout according to what you're using, a tablet, a mobile phone, or a desktop machine. It also switches from portrait view to landscape view, and that's pretty sweet as well. Because I see a lot of games right now that are actually built for iPhone, and then you get them on an iPad, and they're just basically zoomed, and they look blurry and ugly, and you're like, really? This is what you do? Instead of using the screen, you just zoom the thing? So we can do that with media queries. Native animation with CSS. CSS animations are hardware accelerated, so you can make beautiful animations, and it doesn't suck out your battery within 2 minutes like some Flash ones do. Dynamic painting with Canvas SVG. Canvas and SVG allows you to paint something in the browser or allow people to paint it. You can have, instead of just having a feedback side, you can allow people to circle things and annotate them and send you an image. Which is probably more likely that people do that than write like, oh, on the left-hand side there's a problem with that piece of information that I don't know where it's going. 3D interfaces with WebGL, that's a big thing for gaming. And I'm going to show you an example how it actually makes sense for you as well. Local and offline storage. Why do your applications die when I'm offline? They don't have to. You can actually record what I'm doing while I'm offline. As soon as I go online, you can sync that again instead of interrupting me and telling me, well, that didn't work. Sucks to be you. Thank you for your basket. That's now lost. File APIs allow you to actually access file systems, create file systems, read from the file systems. And video is native now in HTML5, so it actually it allows you to interact with the video rather than just showing a video on the page and taking away the rest of the experience of the website. So media queries for flexibility. The Boston Globe, the newspaper, just is the poster child for that at the moment. A friend of mine was actually the designer for that. So this is the website. On the desktop it looks like this, on the tablet it looks like this, on the mobile phone it looks like this. Same HTML document. No changes, no extra blueprint in a content management system or something like that. One document fixes itself to according what the user needs. And that is awesome. That is exactly what the web should be. I want every interface on this planet to be like an Iron Man. You know, like I want the thing to change according to what I'm doing. And with HTML5 you can this. For example, input elements. When you expect a telephone number and you put a normal text element in your page, I have to switch on my phone to the number and start typing the number in. If you give it a type of tel, then it actually realizes that a telephone number is expected and the mobile phone automatically would switch to the number keyboard without me having to switch to it. And that's the kind of little things that will make your customers much more happier. CSS animation. This is MADMANIMATION running in Firefox Aurora a few months ago. We tried to show that off. This is not Flash. This is an HTML document with CSS behind it. So that whole thing is animating and beautifully done. I mean, it's a good designer that spent a lot of time on doing that. And when you look at the source code of that, or if you look at it on a browser that doesn't support that, it's just basically a list with thumbnails explaining you the story of this animation. So nothing in there. It had to be done in Flash. Everything can be done by the normal web development team that you have. And it's beautifully done, and there's an application coming out that allows you to do these animations. Adobe are actually working on one called Edge, so they're trying to do the same thing. The good thing about that as well, if you do that as an ad, it will run on an iPad, whereas your Flash ad wouldn't. Not that I say we need more ads, but it's a good technology. Canvas SVG allows you to do interactive design things. So this is when Chrome got its third birthday, I think, or something like that. They did this animation here, which shows you the history of the internet and all the different browsers. You see you highlight things, and everything is smoothly animated. This, again, is SVG and Canvas, all in HTML5, no Flash, no Silverlight, nothing extra to do. If you want to change that, you go into the source code, you change the text, and you're done. Or in a content management system, you change the text there. WebGL is a 3D interface. You can do really creepy things with it, like this one. This is not a video. This is a 3D model. And look at those skin discolorations and the stubbles and all these things. So all of that is real time. I can zoom in. I can change that around. I can reach every pixel in that animation in an open fashion. And it's based on OpenGL. And OpenGL means that a lot of games developers that in the past built games on OpenGL can now go on the web and actually give you their talent to build things with them. So you don't have to re-educate people to learn something new for the web. If they've done 3D stuff for games, they can put it on the web right now. How could you use this? Pepheads.com is a demo. Not a demo, it's a company actually in France, I think. What they're doing is these little paper things that you can put on your desk, and they're a bit like Pokemons, where you can fight them with each other, and they have all these strength stuff and things like that. So this is just an image right now, and if they switch to 3D, they click the button here, and it just loads the 3D object in it. And once that is done, you can now see the object in all angles. You realize there's no video being loaded, there's no plugin being loaded, it doesn't tell me that my plugin is outdated, it doesn't tell me what's going on. If the browser did not support the 3D interface, the 3D button wouldn't show up. Your clients, your end users, your customers would not be the wiser. But the ones that can do it actually get a 3D view, and that's pretty cool for these paper things, because then you can see how they get folded and all kind of things as well. And WebGL is supported in Chrome, it's in Firefox, not in Internet Explorer, but there's ideas to get that fixed as well. Local storage. Cookies are bad for you. First of all, they make you fat. And mostly on the web, they're just evil, because the format is bad. It's been painful to work with them. People stop them from being set for good reason. You can intercept cookies and read your store information with other people. It's just a bad idea to take something that should be only local to the computer and put it on an HTTP stream that goes between everything the server and the client does. The other day I was in Marriott in San Jose. I was in a hotel in San Jose, and they charge for the internet, which is annoying in the Silicon Valley. It's like charging for pillows, really. But what the cool thing is, it was really expensive. It's not the cool thing, but the cool thing with that one is, like, if it's expensive, they try to find a way around it. People love to play with the system. So some friends of mine and me, we just basically bought the internet, well, not the full internet, the internet access, and just shared the internet connectivity on our computers and called it Marriott Free Wi-Fi Level 4, Level 5, Level 6. And the amount of people just connecting to our free Wi-Fi, completely open, with their cookies being intercepted, with their passwords being in real text, with their stuff completely open to the world because it's set free, is really, really scary. And that all works because cookies, to a degree, I mean, there's a lot more other things, but cookies are a real problem. If you remember Firesheep, the extension for Firefox that allowed you to actually log into somebody's Facebook when you were in the same flight lounge or Starbucks with them, that's the problem with cookies. So local storage works around that problem by only being in JavaScript and only on the computer of your user. So instead of you storing information or a hash key to actually realize what's going on in your application, you just store it on their computer. You get 5 megabytes per user, and it's a simple key and value store. So you can say last panels shown and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And next time you come to that page, read last panels shown, and you're done. It's a wonderful thing and much, much easier than cookies ever were. Offline storage, the same thing. You got a manifest file where you can tell the browser which things should be offline. So if it goes offline, you still got the styling, you still got the JavaScript, the interaction is still there. You can still allow people to store that. So you can have an offline style of your whole page and then actually a local storage to record what the user is doing in between and then send it off. Gmail is a great example for that. File APIs allow you client-side conversion and client-side uploading of files. What does that mean? You can drag and drop from a desktop. This is not science fiction. This is working. And you can download the code and use it now. This is a demo that we've written for that. And it works in Chrome, works in Firefox, in IE I think as well. So you can drag and drop an image from your file system into the browser. And you can start annotating that picture and do something with it. And it creates a new image from that and loads it up to the web. So nothing in there is server. All of that is client running in my machine, running in my browser, and I only use, in this case, Twitter and Facebook and image URL to send the images to. But you could just convert images and allow people to crop images, to resize them, to color them before they upload it. Another thing you could allow people is to drag a whole folder in and automatically zip that folder up and upload it then, instead of waiting for 400 emails or 400 images to be uploaded one by one. And it's much better to actually compress them and then upload them than to upload those 20 megs that could be 1 meg packaged. HTML5 video allows you to do has native browser controls. That doesn't look like a big thing, but it was a big thing when you think about accessibility. And I've been an accessibility consultant for a long time, and I really think that the web is not only for people who have both hands and can see and can read and these kind of things. The web is for everybody. If you think about that, eBay's money comes to a big chunk from people over 55 years old. You should actually think about people with disabilities as well. And with native browser controls in the video itself, you can actually access it with a keyboard if you don't have a mouse. Or you can access it with a voice recognition program if you don't have hands. And with Flash video, that was always a total pain to go through. And with HTML5 video, you can style the controls any way you want to if you want to make them prettier as well. You can write your own controls simply. And it has a rich API to interact with the video. A demo that I've done that's a bit meta is actually me explaining how you can use HTML5 video in your pages. And the whole page is controlled by that video. You normally find play buttons and forward buttons and stuff to control the video. But I went the other way around. I said the video is basically the explanation of that whole website. So according to where I'm jumping in the video, it shows the website that I'm talking about at that moment. And the way I connected those is not magic. It's a few lines of JavaScript. And if you look at the source code, which we will do in a second in this video here, you can see the controls here. These are from the browser. These are the native controls I talked about. So on each section or article in this case, I have a data start and data end. And these are the second that page should show and the second that page should vanish. So when I jump in the video, it actually tells me which second the video is on. And then I just show the certain element that is there. So for training materials, for interactive demos, like our shopping basket is there, and these things are there, you can highlight the parts of the page rather than actually having to create a video of your store that gets outdated every month when you do a redesign. So interactivity between HTML video and others is really easy. This was a clever way. Somebody had built a demo how you can actually make a video into a puzzle. And that artist then took that script, because it's open source, it's free to use, and used this music video. And while you're listening to the song, you can actually take the puzzle and put the video together. And if you manage to solve the whole video whilst the song is playing in that 2 minutes, you can download the MP3 for free. If not, you can watch the video again. So he didn't write any of that. He just used what he found, and he made a little interactive thing out of his music video. And even if it wasn't a massive success, every web designer I know found that on Twitter and sent it out to their friends because they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And this is free advertising that you shouldn't get away from. So new technology is something to be excited about because the early adopters of the web will be great advertisers for you. So what does the future hold? Where's the flying cars that we wanted to have for years and years? So right now, Mozilla and others, with Google together as well, we're thinking about a few things that we learned from closed environments like Android and put them on the web. There's a web intents. Web intents allow me to actually say, I want a photo. But I don't want to know where you store your photos. I don't care if you use Flickr, if you use Google Storage, if you use image URL, whatever you want to do where your photos are. I should not have to know that. I should not have to support all these services for storage. A web intent just tells me, give me a picture. And you as the end user then actually say, okay, I use Flickr, get one of those. So I don't have to actually negotiate with Flickr as the end provider of the end software provider. The user does that for me. Boot2Gecko is a project where we're actually trying to make this one open, because all of you have Android. Android is a free platform. The hardware isn't. So we really can't access the hardware. With Boot2Gecko, we're working on that. Open web apps, I'm going to show you in a second. That's the final thing that I'm going to show you. Web APIs are there to access things that are not available for you on mobile phones now. And Browser ID is an identity provider that we're working on that allows you to actually log in with a single button into any web page out there. And the single button control works that way that you have an email that is your identity, and the Browser ID provider actually hosts that for you. So you can say, right now you do it with a pop-up window, later on you can do it in the browser. In the browser you will have like, I am these identities. I'm Chris at Gmail, I'm Chris at Hotmail, I'm Chris at I don't know, I'm Chris at Yahoo, I'm LoveGod69 at what other thing, whatever identity you want to have. And instead of having to go through typing in your username and your password on every single page that you're using, that whole thing would happen in the background in the browser for you. You just have to pick your identity and do that. Because passwords, to me, have to die. They're just bad. I mean, nobody remembers passwords. That's why we use great things like password 123. Or when Lifehacker got hacked, 20,000 users had the password Lifehacker. Well, that was really hard to find out, right? And these are the same people that have done headlines, why do I get my mobile phone data stolen? Because your password is let me in. No wonder that your mobile information gets out there. So we have to stop forcing people to log into everything if there is a system that is decentralized like Browser ID or OpenID was before, but OpenID didn't work because people did not see themselves as an owner of a domain. They saw themselves as an owner of an email much more. We came up with Browser ID because every system, no matter what login system you have, falls back to an email. When you forget your password, what do? Please remind me, and it sends you an email to reset your password. So why do we do that loop over resetting your password over and over again? You see kids these days, 14, 16-year-olds, they basically, when they forget their password, they just go to Gmail and open a new account. They don't really care about the old account anymore and all the photos that they uploaded there. It's all throwaway stuff. So we have to stop that from happening. Because everything on the web that is old is actually unsafe. And we got full screen notifications and context menus. So in a right click on the page, you could put your own little things in there and say like, rotate this image. Or in a notification, you can say like, hey, new sale going on, like your price just changed, these kind of things outside the browser while they are in another website. So this is one of the things we're working on. And Nightly is available when you can see this, where we take the browser away. And because the problem now with web applications is that people say it always looks like the browser. And it's like, it's just, you go to Google Docs and you got the Google menu up there, and then you got your browser menu up there and another menu up there, and the amount of people clicking on the wrong buttons is quite amazing. So with that one now, you can see Google Docs down here doesn't have the URL bar anymore, but it's now just the Google Docs toolbar that they actually wrote for Firefox or for Chrome. So you have a full application in your browser. And with Windows 8, Microsoft is going the same way as well. So there's lots of applications that actually don't look like web applications anymore. Up there is Google Maps that actually gives you just a get current location rather than a toolbar again. So web APIs allow us to access the dialer, SMS, address book, clock, calculator, camera, gallery, settings, games, maps, everything on the mobile phone that right now we don't get access to, because of security, and that's good. So we're working hard on making these things secure. On the other hand, how many of you have probably downloaded a puzzle game that had full access to your SMS dialer and your address book because you were annoyed, like, I want to play that game, I don't want to read what you give me right now. So malware on Android is happening because people say yes to things they shouldn't say yes to. On the web, we're much more paranoid, which to a degree is good, but also unfair if you think about it, because it's harder to get stuff there. So this is our open framework for apps. This is available as an add-on right now, so you can try that out immediately in Firefox, and this will be in the future. So you've got a tab down there where you see your applications. For example, Flickr or the New York Times application. The New York Times application then gets away with all the browser Chrome and looks like something on an iPad or an iPhone or any other tablet. So it uses the space to give you a reading experience inside New York Times, rather than giving you New York Times inside a browser with all menus and stuff that you don't really need. So that's the first thing. So this is HTML5. And now if you want to provide an app, Twitter, for example, in this case, would have an app, and it says app available. And then you say yes to that. How do they do that? The way it's written right now, and the way we wrote a proposal for that, and other browser vendors are thinking about that as well, is you put a meta tag in your page. And you say, this is our website, but we also have an app. So if your browser goes there, it says there's an app available, install that app. In a second phase, we then will allow you to drag that app out onto your desktop on Windows 8, for example, or on your mobile phone or on your tablet, because you really don't need to. It's the same format of app. It's an HTML5 app, so it should not have to go through a different way to install it somewhere else. So a simple meta tag in your page tells end users out there, you're on a tablet, do you want to have that web experience or do you want to download the app? Rather than go to the App Store, we also have an app there, and be lucky if you find it. And we're using the web for distribution. And in a second phase, we'll also use it for payments and all these kind of things, because we already have a trusted connection with you through Browser ID or through other providers. So we know what you are, and you say yes to it. Not like, oh, magically we find out where you are. That's creepy. You should be asked to do these kind of things, and that's what we're working on this. So once you have it installed, then basically you can go to Twitter, and any Twitter connection that you have, we're thinking about that. We're not sure if people want that. So this is all for discussion as well. If you don't like it, just please tell us. So now if you, on Twitter, you would have a link to New York Times. And instead of just having it open in another browser, it would automatically open in the New York Times app. So every time somebody goes to your eBay, everybody goes to an eBay link somewhere on Craigslist or somewhere else, it would open in the eBay app rather than the eBay website. And that's actually a step that we haven't done before yet. So this is Web Intense. Guess you have a CPR service that makes every photo into sepia, because it's much, much cooler than anything else. And there you go. This is basically get an image from Flickr or add another service. So this is native in the browser. I don't know where that photo came from. I just made a JavaScript call that I want to have a photo. You as the end user are actually allowed to use Flickr, to use any other photo service that you have installed and you subscribe to, because I don't want to send your login and your password to that service and be actually responsible if it gets lost. It should be up to you, and it should be your decision when to give out what information on this planet and on this web for you. So this one now uploaded that photo directly in JavaScript from the client without me having to know that you use Flickr. I just said, I want a photo, I store a photo. You said to me, I use Flickr for both these things. So that's it. Go out and play. And yeah, the web is there for you. Thank you. And as you can see, the whole thing is one simple HTML page that you can print out, take with you, all the notes in there. And if I start my presentation, this is not live yet, but I will send that out there as well. You can read the notes on the page as well. HTML can do that. Just use it, please. Thanks. Hey? Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody getting dizzy? Any questions? Over there? Please wait for the mic, because they need to record it for the web as well.
Okay. Can you talk about any kind of work going on to have the web talk to hardware like card reader, printer, pin pad peripherals, so that you don't have to download a local client for all these different platforms?
Yeah, USB drivers, the bane of our existence, isn't it? It's amazing. I'm a software developer, and every time I use a printer, these things crap out of me. It's amazing. They know it. One of the things we do in Boot2Gecko is USB drivers as well. So instead of having to support all the different platforms out there, we're just working on one USB provider that actually would allow you to, if the hardware recognizes itself via USB, that would go through the web app as well. So that's the main thing that we're doing with that. USB has been proven, is working, so we just think that's the best way of doing it at the moment. Maybe we should be thinking about something like an open identifying process that basically allows you to write hardware that tells the computer what they're going on. But that's the big problem with hardware, because you have to support on every laptop, every desktop, everything out there. So USB does that for you already. Cool.
What do you think the impact of WebSockets will be with HTML5?
WebSockets are a wonderful thing. I mean, I haven't turned it on yet, but this slide system, for example, supports WebSockets as well. So you could actually sit in the other room and actually see when I change my slides automatically. So you just can, with WebSockets, you can have thousands of users connect to your application and stay connected, rather than constantly pulling and pushing things. So for stock tickers, for bidding, for online gaming, WebSockets are really, really powerful. And now that the protocol has finally been fixed, it's also more secure. In the past, we shut down WebSockets for a while because the protocol had a security problem. Google hadn't shut it down because they waited for a problem in the wild, which luckily enough didn't happen. And now it's actually, we turned it on again. So WebSockets gives us that real-time connectivity that for years and years we wanted, but we couldn't have because the web over HTTP didn't scale. I was at a JavaScript meetup yesterday night in San Francisco, and it was all about Node.js and WebSockets and like real-time applications, financial applications. So it's going to be huge. And it's going to be interesting as well. You don't have to use it for everything, but for everything that is immediate, a real-time web, it's a really, really good way of doing it.
Hey, so this is all really amazing, but how do you support stuff like Internet Explorer 7? Do we have to write 2 separate versions of our, like a site that would require like video or some flashy animation, that type of thing?
Yeah. The topic of Internet Explorer 7. Or old Internet Explorer 6, 7, 8. It's an unfair problem because we should not have to solve that problem. Microsoft should. And Microsoft are doing a great job in promoting 9 and 10. If you're on Windows XP, you're not allowed to get new browsers, which is unfair to me. But there is a reason for it, and it's a reason that they can't upgrade everybody on this planet, and they rewrote 9 from scratch. As I said before, it's about fallback. It's about progressive enhancement. You check if the thing is supported, and then you give it to your end users. Right now, all your websites work on IE6. Awesome. Don't give IE6 things it chokes on. Don't give bad browsers things they don't understand. Every browser you can test for and actually say, okay, do you know this? Yes, okay, here is something that you can have with it. There's a great system called Modernizer. Let me just quickly see if my computer crashed or what's going on here. Anyways, it's a JavaScript, of course. Modernizer is a JavaScript that actually you put in your page, and if you don't have your debugging tools on like a real developer has all the time, it looks like this. And it actually checks what the browser supports and gives you classes on the HTML element what it supports. So all you have to do is like if HTML.WebGL, then do the WebGL stuff. If you don't have it, then show a picture. Like the pepets.com example showed, Internet Explorer 6 would just get the image, everybody else gets the 3D environment. I don't think we should build for the past. I think we should build for the future. But we should build for the future and give somebody else something beautiful to show. And there are simple things you can do, like, for example, a canvas animation. Not every browser supports Canvas, so put an image in there and explain that this is an animation, or if you don't need, just put an image there to make it pretty. And the good thing about that one is, if you, for example, somebody on Facebook links to your Canvas animation, they get that image as the thumbnail image. So you don't only do it to support all browsers, you also support it. You also do it to support findability of your application and your design. So I will not, I suffered long enough from Internet Explorer 6 and 7. I'm still rocking forward and backward thinking about the things that I had to do for it. So let's help Microsoft to actually go into the future by not maintaining the stuff or giving things to browsers that are too slow. Because every time you do, there's lots of polyfills, they're called. Polyfills are basically JavaScripts that you can put in the page that would simulate stuff that new browsers do in old browsers. What you do with that, though, is actually it also means that you have to test for all these browsers. And then you use your testing time to support something old rather than something new. So progressive enhancement, make it work in the old ones, make it beautiful in the new ones, is the right way of doing it.
So all this is, open standards, and open standards, they take a while. Whereas Apple can spit out new features left and right. Do you fear we're always going to be playing catch-up with this game?
The question is if we play catch-up with closed systems. Of course it's simple to build something beautiful if you control the hardware and the software and the drivers and everything. I think the rise of Linux on servers shows that it can be done. And it shows that a rigid environment where everything is controlled is beautiful, but it's also very expensive. I'd rather use things that I can poke at to understand what's going on rather than trusting someone to give me something new every time and something amazing every time. I use Apple. I like what they're doing, and I don't think it's a bad thing what they're doing and that they're setting the pace. But I don't think we're catching up. I think I had the same when I worked for Yahoo, and people always ask me like, so Google is better than you guys, And I'm like, I really don't care. Because if Yahoo tomorrow is better than Yahoo yesterday, we can overtake any competition that we want. If we keep comparing ourselves with the competition, it's a bad plan, because you will always play catch-up. So I think we should play the strength of open technologies and open standards and actually make them safer than the closed ones, because a lot of the security issues that are in closed technology never ever get told in public. But when we have a security vulnerability, we say it immediately and we fix it immediately. So that's a big benefit of open standards. I think a transparent way of building something will always yield better results in the long run. In the short term, yeah, this is beautiful, that works. Haha, you open source guys can't do it. But I think we definitely will be catching on and overtaking. And I don't think it's about the shiny, it's about the sustainability of our systems in the future that will make the main difference there. There's one over there and one over there. Run, microphone, run.
I'm seeing a kind of a recent trend where there's kind of like a continuous improvement of browsers. Like there's not really a concept of versions as much as there used to be. Like they change on a Chrome kind of started it where it's just every day it can update. But that's kind of causing less from a standpoint of HTML5 as much of like styles and things, where you're not really told as a developer what changed. Is it the renderer? So do you have to vet all your CSS through all the past versions? Like Google, for instance, is only supporting like the last 2 versions of the browser, but that's not kind of practical. When you're an e-commerce website that's trying to support 3 years of browsers. So what strategy do you do to kind of check that your CSS renders properly? I mean, I know there's the concept of standards, but it's out on the front lines, it's problematic.
Well, the concept of standards and the concept of standard, it is a standard, and it's open and it's readable and you can build towards it. If you don't build towards it, you will have problems. And continuously updating browsers means also that they are backwards compatible. So in the best of worlds, nothing should break. If you build something only for Internet Explorer 6 and you actually found a certain bug that made it beautiful, you shouldn't be surprised that it doesn't work differently in other browsers. We run the same problem with WebKit right now. People build everything for Chrome and for Safari. And in a year's time, we will all be bitten in our back really hard if other browsers catch up and other systems come around, especially on the mobile devices. There's new browsers in the making all the time. I always trusted standards. I never trusted browsers. Browsers lie to you. They steal your pocket money if you don't look at them. And I know where the problem is that we're not... the updating browsers daily is not the issue. Not updating our methodologies, how we build websites, is the issue. A lot of the systems, how we build big corporate websites, is like we have a review every year what new technology is out. And that's just dangerous. So as I said, backwards compatibility is normally given, unless you did something only for a certain browser. And what you need to do is write your things so they fall back to something else. I mean, great example is CSS. Right now, when you write CSS, you have to do all kind of terrible things. So this is, for example, the CSS of that system. So if you see here, I've got these transitions, which are actually how the slides go through. This is for Mozilla, for WebKit, for Opera, for Microsoft, and for the standard. The standard is not supported in all the browsers right now. But this slide system, when other browsers come out that support the standards, will not break. If I just said WebKit transition, I would be dead as soon as a new browser comes out. So have a fallback for the different browsers and understand what they do. Something like Modernizer can help you a lot with that as well. So I'd rather have a secure internet than have an internet that looks perfect, pixel perfect. Because if your website looks exactly the same on every single browser out there, you didn't build a website. You put a JPEG on the web. The website should actually use what the browser gives it and be better in better browsers and okay and working in other browsers. That is a methodology that's hard to understand for a lot of people that come from IT into the web. But the web is a medium. It's not software. It's not something you do in university. It's a living, changing thing. And you can only make it secure if your browser is living and changing constantly as well. I mean, Microsoft just basically killed a lot of people off with like not allowing them to get 9 and 10 on Windows XP. That was definitely a hard decision for them. But thank God, Internet Explorer 6 has to die. It is the biggest security hole on this planet. And we just don't care too much because, how my information has leaked out. But you as e-commerce providers, you're the people that actually have to pay back when they lost money. And I'd rather have a safe environment than having to pay back people all the time. Cool. Just wait for the microphone because people on the web have to hear. You're on the web.
HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript. Is this a platform, development platform that's suitable for independent developers, or is this going to require a lot of overhead that requires a team and a corporate development environment, in your opinion?
Anybody can write it. You get a text editor, you start writing it. There's no official training materials. There's no official learning, sadly enough. I just tech edited a book that actually uses HTML5 to go into universities right now rather than HTML. It's rather new stuff, but it's all about learning it from the source and starting bit by bit to get into it. There's lots of resources out there that actually allows you to play with it. All my slides are available. All my demo materials are available. Everything that people build in HTML5 that I found so far was open source, including what Google does. So it's a very shared environment, and it's very easy to start with it. A great start is HTML boilerplate. What? HTML boilerplate. Wow. Awesome. I get job offers for HTML6 developer right now. It's pretty awesome. So HTML5 boilerplate is a zip file that you can just download, and then you put it on your machine and you start editing the index.html in your computer, and you can start playing with it. And so there's CSS3 things like that as well out there. It's all a bit experimental at the moment, but that's the good thing about it. We need you now to use that new stuff so we know if we do the right thing, because geeks are there to solve problems. And if you don't give us problems, we come up with problems to solve. And that's not what we should be doing. We should be solving your issues. And we're done. Last one.
One more. For a while, we just had Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Opera pretty much to worry about, and now we've got Chrome on the landscape, and all of a sudden, Silk has reared its head. Underneath these, we have the same rendering engines mostly, but we starting to see maybe forks in the rendering engine. I mean, it sounds like Amazon might be doing something like that. We won't know for a while. Do you see that as an ongoing problem as people grab WebKit and go off in their own direction with it and clone new browsers because it's easy to make them? Or easier.
Question was rendering engine of browsers and how much the difference is. The difference of HTML5 to all the other standards that we had before is that HTML5 to 90% of the, well, 80% of the standard defines how a browser should display HTML5. So the functionality of the browser rendering engine is in the standard. In the past, we built random stuff and hoped it worked according to the standard. So all the browser makers are part of the HTML5 process. So we will get less of these unhappy incidents we had in the past where Internet Explorer had a completely random thing and Netscape 4 had another one and Opera was nowhere to be seen. And I think the main thing here is that we are part of the process and that browsers are predictably understanding that HTML5 is something we agree on. So a lot of the stuff you see in HTML5 emerging has been the work of browser vendors talking to each other for a month already before that. So that is pretty cool, and that's pretty nice that I, as a Mozilla guy, can go into the Google office and talk to these guys about the implementation of WebGL without having to sign an NDA and without having to actually join them before I can actually get access to. Different story with Safari, but they have a good, it's the same rendering engine as Chrome. So again, thank you very much.